Great.
And we're live. We're live. Let me pull up the YouTube. It'll take a little bit of a delay to get going.
That's okay.
Yeah, there we are. I
Great.
see it. One little trick is to mute the YouTube channel so you don't get feedback because we're ahead of that.
Let me do that. That's okay. Okay, just muted the YouTube channel.
There you go. Okay, cool. All right, we'll start now. All right, coming down 3, 2. Well, it helps if I have my script up. You just wing it right off the top, you know. All right, let me move this.
So should I be watching the YouTube page for questions come up, or?
Well, I was gonna ask you maybe like 10, 15 minutes of my questions, and then we're gonna say YouTubers, if you have a question after we get through the message board questions, start bringing them in, and I'll scroll down and look up and down on the YouTube, see what they have to say. We have 5 people at the moment watching.
Whoa!
There we go. They're coming in, dude.
They're rushing in droves.
Nice. All right, coming down in 3, 2. Hey, Crawl Spacers, welcome to this special episode where we're interviewing the voice of the PS4 Spider-Man, Yuri Lowenthal. Welcome to the Crawl Space, Yuri.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
We were just talking. I love the magnets behind you on your fridge right there. You need more Spider-Man.
I do. We need a lot more Spider-Man. Like I didn't have enough Spider-Man in my life right now. No, I should be broadcasting from my office because every background on every wall is a ridiculous amount of nerdity.
I have an office right here full of nerdity. This is the spider. This is the Crawl Space Spider Cave.
You more than make up for it. I'm looking at your stuff with great envy.
There you go. We have everything from salt and pepper shakers to Amigo Spider-Man hanging out back there.
Oh, Amigo, classic Migo.
There you go.
That was my generation.
First of all, I want to say thank you for being an excellent voice of Spider-Man. You nailed it, dude. I loved it.
Thank you. That is my great honor. Thank you.
You are one of the best Spider-Man voices I've heard, and we've interviewed a few of them. Paul Souls, the very first Spider-Man, we had his son hooked him up on a webcam, and we streamed it live here. I thought that was awesome. Paul's in his 80s too. That's
crazy.
And we had Josh Keaton on the line.
One of my favorite people.
Spidey voice, and we had the Amazing Friends. Dan Gilvazan was on with Firestar. So we had an Amazing Friends reunion. So you're in a good line of Spider people.
Oh, yeah, but like I said, it's a huge honor for me.
So talk a bit about your Spider history. When did you become aware of Spider-Man? When was your first exposure to Spider-Man?
When I was a kid. I mean, I was big into comics and superheroes and sci-fi from a very early age, and Spider-Man was one of those first. I think, right at about age 5 or 6, I started to read a lot of comics, and I was, on one side I was reading Batman, Superman, and on the other side I was reading Spider-Man and Captain America.
Right.
And I had no problem bouncing back and forth between DC and Marvel, unlike some people I know. And I've gone through many phases throughout my life where I've leaned more one way or more the other as to what I was reading. But back then I didn't care, and Spider-Man was a big deal. I mean, he had the most colorful heroes. He was the funniest, and even at 6, I was able to more identify with that kid than any of those other heroes.
Right. And you said you read comics. We're probably about the same age. I'm 43. So in the 80s,
I'm older than you. But you are? So yes, but about the same. Yeah.
Yeah. So in the 80s, you were picking up Spider-Man, like when the black suit came on and stuff like that, and with the comics.
By the 80s, I was not reading as much Spider-Man at the time.
Okay.
I was still touching on, but I was not as rabid as I was when I was younger.
Okay.
And it's funny, and there's a huge hole. There's a huge hole in my there was a huge hole in my Spider-Man lore when I started working on this game. So luckily, I was surrounded by all the guys at Insomniac, the writers and Brian Intihar, who's the creative director over there. They're huge Spidey nerds, and Dan Slott and Christos Gage, who literally write Spider-Man comic books, worked on the script. So there was always somebody there to make a comment that I had or a question that I had a little less embarrassing.
Right. We had Brian on last month, and he's such a good Spider nerd, and he knows his Spider stuff.
Yeah, he does.
A great interview. Was there a particular Spider voice in animation or anything that you picked up on, like what a Spider-Man cartoon that you remember?
I mean, I grew up because of my age. I grew up on the Ralph Bakshi Spider-Man.
Nice.
So for many years, he was my Spider-Man.
Yeah,
really.
Paul Souls. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. And did you follow the other cartoons that came along, the 80s, The Amazing Friends and stuff like that?
Again, there are holes in that for me.
Yeah.
But I don't think I started seriously watching again until Josh, was Spider-Man, and Spider-Man became amazing again.
Or spectacular.
Right, you're right. To be specific, it became spectacular again. But it really stepped up in that, and I was able to hook into it again. So
when I interviewed Josh a couple years ago, after he got his first Spider gig, he splurged a little bit, and he has a Mini Cooper. So he put a wrap of Spec Spidey, the poster, on top of his Mini Cooper. Did you PS4 your house or anything after you got the gig? I mean,
my wife would probably have argued me over, away on that one. But I did order the that special PS4 Pro that was wrapped, the Spider-Man PS4 Pro.
Nice. So you've got the red joystick and that's wrapped. It's nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
I was going to ask about that. Did you get any collectibles? This stuff, I've seen cosplayers in the white spider suit. I've seen pop figures, action figures.
It's amazing. People were already cosplaying our Spider-Man 2 years before the game came out, which is, I was always so jealous. I'm like, how come they have that cool stuff? Because we didn't have any of that stuff. As the game got closer, I started to collect stuff because it's what I do, and I have a lot of the pop figures. I have a hoodie that sort of Marvel branded hoodie that looks great. It's not always comfortable. It doesn't breathe very well, but I wear it all the time because it looks great. And trying to collect as many things as I could. I did a press junket in New York, and all the journalists got these Spider-Man backpacks filled with like stuff.
Oh, you didn't get one? You're Spider-Man.
Well, I don't think anybody thought to give me one because I wasn't a journalist until I like poked somebody. I'm like, hey, what's it gonna take to get me one of those Spider-Man backpacks? It's actually.
Oh, you got one there. Yeah, finally, Spider-Man got his backpack. That's probably one of the ones that we had to collect around the city so often in the
exactly. Yeah, we can go to the logic where people are like, but doesn't his webbing dissolve after a while? And I'm like, doesn't matter. We want to collect backpacks.
I need to get your pop, but I've got the Mary Jane PS4 pop.
Oh, so nice. And I love that she's holding a Spider-Man plushie.
She is, yes.
I love that she had a Spider-Man plushie on her couch in the game.
Oh yeah, that was cool. Cool.
The details were good.
So talk about the game. How did you get involved with the project? How did it come about? It was 2+ years ago, right?
But it was the first time I was contacted about it was 4 years ago, and it wasn't even to be in the game. It was my friends at Insomniac who were pitching themselves as a company, to Marvel Games to do they hadn't even gotten the gig yet.
Oh wow!
And they wanted to record a VO session, animate it to sort of pitch themselves.
Right.
And I had just worked with them on Sunset Overdrive, and so it was the same writer. And he said, "Hey Yuri, we're doing this pitch piece. Would you come in and be Spider-Man?" Well, I don't think he even could say what it was at first, but I gleaned what
it's all Marvel projects. You're all in the dark with Marvel stuff, right? Exactly.
And so we recorded a scene that never made it into the story or the game eventually between Spidey and Osborn, Norman, and then I didn't hear anything. I was like, oh, well, good luck. I hope you guys get the gig.
Yeah.
Didn't hear anything. And then I got to go in for an audition, and then I was auditioning, against a bunch of people, and then we got, they called back a few people, and then it got smaller and smaller and smaller until it was me. And it was a very long process because, obviously, Spider-Man's a sacred cow for, and a huge property for Marvel, and they really wanted to get it. And I actually had some things going against me in that I had just been in the Insomniac's last game, and some people over there looked at that character and said, well, that's not at all what we want for our Peter Parker. And luckily I have some champions over there, and they said, look, just give him a shot.
Nice.
Let's bring him in for auditions because we think he can do this too. And I will never be able to thank those people enough.
And it's a role you fought for, I imagine. How many people were up for it? Were auditioning.
In fact, as I understand it, they had already hired one guy who was a TV actor. I don't know who it was, but but it just didn't work out. It happens sometimes. I've been fired plenty of times off of jobs that I thought I had. But I think sometimes what happens is you can get a great TV actor or film actor, and then you put them, in for mocap or in front of a microphone, and it just doesn't translate, or they don't know how to, make that jump. So, I mean, some TV and film people I know are terrific at that. And I worked with some of them on this game. But I guess, whoever it was didn't work out. And that's when they went to the sort of the broader net.
Right.
But I'm glad they did.
No doubt. Now, voicing acting, is there a change in your voice you do for Peter Parker versus Spider-Man?
Yeah, that was something that they really wanted to make clear, that Peter talks differently when he's got the mask on. Now, sometimes not. I mean, there's sort of a third one, which is when he's got the mask on, but he's talking to MJ, on the phone. I mean, he's mostly Pete at that point. Mm-hmm. But when he's fighting guys, he's definitely, much more Butch. He's definitely having fun and feeling like he can really sort of, say all the things that he can't say when he's Peter. And they kept a really tight leash on that, or much less a tight leash and much more, a really good eye. Chris Zimmerman, the vocal director, the performance director, as well as when Brian and Tara was in the room, especially a lot early on, they would definitely say, hold on, that's a Spider-Man line, it's not a Peter line, or that Spider-Man line was a little too Peter, or whatever. Mm-hmm. But it was more an attitude shift than a different voice.
I was going to say, is it more extroverted versus introverted?
Yeah, extroverted, a little more fun. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Pete is less sure of himself when he's talking.
Right.
But he puts that mask on, man, and I'll tell you what, he gets a lot more confident.
That scene you said when he's talking to MJ, he's a little more himself, more Peter. I love the scene in the game when he gets the text message and you think they're breaking up. I told Brian that in the interview. I'll
tell you, I was blessed with some of the best writing I've ever worked with as an actor in my career. So I got to give those guys credit where credit is due. It's a lot easier for me to do my job well when there's good writing.
So I was going over your IMDb, and take that with a grain of salt. It's like Wikipedia. Sometimes it's right or wrong.
Sure.
But it says you were Superman in the Legion of Superheroes.
Correct.
So you've played Superman, Spider-Man, and you've also been Iceman in the Lego Marvel game.
Right. And on Wolverine and the X-Men, an animated show.
There you go. And so if you could do Firestar, you could do the Amazing Friends. Like, you could do the trifecta of my favorite.
It's true. I have auditioned for Firestar before.
Is there... This just in. We just found out about
this. Didn't get
it. Is there differences in Superman and Spider-Man? I mean...
Oh, yeah.
Talk about that a little bit.
Definitely. I mean, they, obviously they both have secret identities, and they're both, generally wholesome characters. Yeah. But, Superman has, they both have huge responsibilities. But Superman's is sort of much. I mean, he feels like, whereas Spidey feels like the protector of New York City, Superman's got that weight on his shoulders of, I've got to protect everyone on Earth. I can't screw this up.
Much more guilt in the voice.
Right. I think there's a much more of a weight to him. Although their public personas from time to time do overlap a bit. And they've both been fun to really to dabble in. I mean, my Superman was a younger Superman, so he was still very new to his powers and his responsibility. And there was you could draw a lot of connections to that and Spidey.
And if I did my research correctly, this is the PS4 game is the third time you did Spider-Man. The first one was Amazing Spider-Man 2, the video game, and then the Unlimited mobile game, right?
Yeah, I may have even done a really early Spider-Man pinball game, I think it's Marvel Pinball.
And I remember that.
Spider-Man, and but it was it was very limited. I had maybe 20 lines, or something like that.
You remember any lines out of that pinball? Like, great shot or what?
Probably. That was too long ago.
Any differences from the mobile game and the first time you voiced them to the PS4 game? And what's some differences that you've done differently?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of them come in the writing. Obviously, in the PS4 game, we really got to build a lot of character and story, and there was a lot of drama. Whereas with the other smaller games, they had less time and probably less of a budget to really spin a story that people could, and characters that people could really sink their teeth into. So I think it was more that than the Spidey, like how was my Spidey different? It was that I got to really dig down deep and into, I mean, those Spideys were inevitably, younger probably than the one that we explored in this one.
Your 8 years on the job is my personal favorite. So I like when he knows what he's doing instead of Iron Man Jr. or something like that.
Right, exactly. And we've seen the origin story so many times.
Yeah.
It's nice to sort of to see this, to start with this version and then go from there.
Talk about the recording process. Were you by yourself? Did you have a cast with you in the room, or what was that like?
When I was just recording the voice acting stuff, I was always solo. But when we were on the performance capture stage, and they were, was wearing all the mocap suit and had the camera on my face and everything for all the cinematics. We had other actors there, which, you get a different kind of acting. When you put actors in a room together, you get a whole other level of acting than you do when you're recording solo in a booth. Right. And that was always the most fun for me, was getting to be on the stage with those other actors. And, in particular, Bill Salyers, who played Otto, they never would have been able to pull the performance out of me in the booth that he pulled out of me when we were looking at each other on the stage.
Right. Especially at the end of the game. Yeah.
Yeah. He is a phenomenal actor. And my Spidey would not have been as good without him across from me.
Talk about the, how much dialogue you had to read. I mean, how many days were you in the booth reading?
A lot.
Was it like a novel? I mean,
I think we ended up with about 100 sessions, so like 100 days.
Wow.
And those were not necessarily full days. There's usually voiceover sessions are in 4-hour sessions, because after that your voice gets tired and they can start to hear it. But it was more than I've ever worked on any other game. And then they added to the fact, not from the beginning, but it was something they discovered as we were making the game, that it might be interesting because you don't know what the player is going to be doing at any given time when they're roaming, to do an exerted version and a more relaxed version if you're just sort of perched or walking down the street. So then it meant that I would have to do 2 separate versions for probably 75% of the lines in the game.
Wow. So the tired Spidey and the just got out of bed and swinging Spidey.
Exactly.
That's funny. Any lines or any funny lines of dialogue that you can remember that you liked, or ones that you struggled with?
They were the writing was so good, and they had such a good handle on the quips. I mean, it had such a classic, Spider-Man quippy feel to it. I can't think of anything specific, but I have to say Ben Arfman, one of the writers on the game, almost as out of frustration of having to write dialogue that's basically like, we're clearly teaching you how the game works, dialogue, which is very hard to write and deliver. Right. He came up with Spider Cop, and he didn't think that was, or he wasn't sure if that was going to work. It worked in his head, but when he turned in his scripts, they were like, I don't know. And they said, well, let's try it. And I love, old movies and old, film noir stuff and Dirty Harry. And they all just sort of, get rolled together into one, and Spider Cop was born. And who knew that what we thought was going to be boring, tutorial dialogue would turn out as funny as it did, and then it added a whole level of relationship to him and Yuri Watanabe, because she hates Spider Cop. But
the players love it. I mean, Spider Cop has cosplayers. I saw some for Halloween, and also he was in a recent comic book. He's official Marvel canon now. In Spider-Geddon.
Spider-Geddon comic. I bought 5 copies of that issue.
Just for Spider Cop.
Yeah.
A line of dialogue that I've never heard Spider-Man say is about the, spoiler alert, the pregnancy scare. Spider-Man had a pregnancy scare with a black cat. He thought he was going to be a baby daddy.
Again, terrific writing. I mean, it just seems so natural that something like that could happen, but we haven't heard that before.
I thought we were going to have to go to Walgreens to get a pregnancy test at some point during the game.
Right. Yeah. And she did great. I mean, Black Cat turned out really, really well.
I have never bought a DLC before, but I bought the 3 that came out here, and I love the Black Cat chapter. That was so good.
Yeah.
I've been communicating with the actress that does Black Cat. She's agreed to come on too,
great.
So she's going to be great.
You were going to have a great time. She's a delight.
Favorite scene you enjoyed recording? Was it the auto scene with the actors? Is that kind of like what you were talking about, or?
Yeah, all that auto stuff was terrific. Obviously, the scene with Aunt May at the end was really hard, but really really rewarding to do. The Black Cat stuff was fun.
Yeah,
I just I loved working as a team with that team, and it became this big Spidey family. I loved working with my stunt guys, my stunt doubles, because they really bring the Spider-Man to Spider-Man. And it was an interesting sort of ballet. Like if it was Peter doing regular stuff, it was me. It was my body. Mm-hmm. If it was Spider-Man doing nothing too difficult, it was often my body. But sometimes it was the performance of the stunt person, the stunt man.
And you said you worked mainly in the booth by yourself. One of my favorite scenes also from the game is the Stan Lee cameo. Were you in the studio when he came in by chance, or?
Funny you should mention. When we recorded it on the motion capture stage, obviously, they're not going to bring Stan in to do that. He was very old, and it's not, he's got more important things to be doing, to come in for one line and put the suit on and all that. So that was actually, here's a bit of trivia. That was Travis Willingham, who played Fisk in the game, did sort of the temp voice and the body performance for him for Stan when we were on the stage. And but when Stan came in to record his voiceover, I was not supposed to be in the studio, but a certain member of the team texted me and said, "Hey, I know you're not in tomorrow, but you might want to show up at like 1:30." And I did, and I got to meet Stan and take a picture with him.
That's so cool. How long ago was that when he came in? Was it a couple years ago, or?
How long ago was that? Yeah, it was probably about a year. Probably about a year and a half ago, maybe.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You got to meet him. Have you beaten the game? I know you just got the PS4 Pro. Have you beaten it? Spider-Man has not beaten his own game.
No,
What's up with
terrible. That? I'm terrible at it. And then I get really like I play it and I'm terrible and I get depressed and I throw the controller away and I come back and I haven't put in the hours to get good enough to just be cruising through it and having fun. I actually have rather enjoyed watching other people who are really good at it play it.
Where are you in the game?
But I'm nowhere near complete.
Where are you in the game? Have you beaten Fisk? That's the very first.
Oh yeah. I have beaten Fisk, but I'm still only like 3% in.
Oh man.
What they did do though, which was fun, is before the game was released, they invited people who'd worked on the game to Insomniac to watch a sort of like a strung together movie made out of the cinematics from the game, and that was fun. It really played like one of the greatest Spider-Man movies ever.
All right, that's all my questions. I've got some message board questions, and then we're going to go to the YouTubers.
Great.
YouTube, if you want to start writing your questions now, I will scroll back up and read them in real time. So we've got some message board questions from Big Al. What advice would you give to actors attempting to play Spider-Man or Peter Parker?
Wow. Get good writers.
Yeah, that's always good.
Determine the difference, find that difference between when Spidey's got the mask on and when it's just Pete, like talking to Aunt May or, people that don't know he's Spider-Man. Right. And to understand, one of the things that I really keyed into is that he's very funny and quippy when he's Spider-Man, but his humor hides a lot of pain and sadness, which, we didn't need to highlight in this game. We've had plenty of video games and, with tortured, heroes and, sometimes Spider-Man. And I don't think we needed that for this.
I agree. Mr. Star Killer 360 from Brazil, Rio de Janeiro. What would you say was the toughest part about voicing Spider-Man?
I think the toughest part was the weight of the mantle of Spider-Man, like being a fan and knowing how beloved the character is. I was obviously excited when I got the job, but I was also terrified that I was going to get it wrong and I was going to ruin Spider-Man for an entire generation.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that wasn't the case.
You don't want to be that guy.
No, I was nervous for 3 years while we were working on it. Are you kidding?
We have Chi-Town Spidey from Chicago, Illinois. Thank you, Yuri, for making Spider-Man's presence in this game a grand slam. I enjoyed playing every moment of it and laugh out loud a few times. The talent you've provided to this character and the depth of emotion you voiced in this game certifies and cements the acronym amazing to your voiceover work. Well done, sir. I've gotten all the trophies and completed the story and DLCs 100%. He's a lot farther than you are.
Yes, 100%.
My question is, I'm a huge fan of Peter and Mary Jane's relationship. Are you a big fan of the Peter-Mary Jane relationship? I really think both you and Laura Bailey really nailed the characters throughout the game and wondered if you two enjoyed playing off each other's characters.
Yes, I'm glad that you love that relationship as much as it deserves to be. I mean, it's the classic relationship, and while it was fun to experiment along the way with the relationship with the other characters, I mean that's the central. I mean that's the central love relationship, and they really paid a lot of attention to it, and I'm glad they did. There's a lot of funny stuff. I mean, going back to one of my another one of my favorite scenes is the chicken curry scene, where they're in her apartment and he's making the curry, and then he gets the info and he starts to leave, and she's like, "Did you just leave your clothes on the on the kitchen floor?" And he's backs up, and I mean, I loved that, and I loved what they did with the little changes they made to sort of the classic Mary Jane to turn her into a slightly newer Mary Jane specific
reporter.
Yeah,
it worked. I liked it.
Yeah, I think it strengthened it and made the relationship really work. So thank you. Yeah, it was a lot of fun to do this.
Chi-Town also has a voice request. I don't know if you do those or not, but he as Spider-Man, I'm putting what he wants you to say in your Spider-Man voice to him. Okay. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, there it is.
Wait. It just went away. Hold on.
Oh, it's in the Google Hangout chat. I just posted it to you.
Yeah. Oh wait. Oh, there it is. But this is Oh, gotcha. Okay, gotcha. Oh, a text message from Chi-Town Spidey. Left deep dish pizza in usual spot for you and MJ. Enjoy. Happy. Oh, Chi-Town, my man. I think happy was the direction, but I might actually call attention to that.
I think you nailed it. I think that was great.
Yeah, I love his pizza moments. There's some. It comes in the DLC. The I love you, but I must destroy you. Talking to the pizza is delicious.
Well, you had a great line where you don't swing and swing upside down after eating pizza. I forget what that line was.
Right. It's gotta think about pounding down like a double pepperoni and then hanging upside down. Bad idea. Yeah.
I love that line. That was great.
The exact line, but I love those little moments.
It's those little things that add to such a fun game.
Yeah.
Javi from Austin, Texas. Did voicing Spider-Man, the mobile Spider-Man Unlimited, help in any way for the PS4 process and landing the gig or in your performance? And what was your favorite line of dialogue? We kind of talked about that. And thanks for saying my son Jack's Spider Cop Halloween costume was your favorite costume so far this last Halloween. You made his month, evidently.
That was your son?
Yeah.
Oh, you are clearly, I got to take parenting. I got to take a parenting page out of your book because you are doing it right, my friend. The mobile game, I don't think helped me get this job in any way. But I'm sure every time I've played, and all the little bits that I've played Spider-Man in the past have helped me find the Spider-Man we did.
Right. Last one on the message board, then we're going to go to YouTube real quick. Anime Hunter, as I am sure many have said, thank you for your portrayal of Spider-Man in the game. You did an awesome job bringing him to life, both as Peter and as Spider-Man. Were there any surprises that were kept from you until the day of recording? For example, how things ended with Peter and Mary Jane, or the Stan Lee would have a cameo, or which was a great surprise for us, or the heartwarming scenes between Mary Jane and Peter? Anything kept from you till day of, I guess is the question.
Yeah, I will say, no, there was never a time where they hid something from me because I think they wanted, or any of the actors, because I think they wanted the actors to be able to prepare, for coming into that day. If it was getting stuff sprung on you like that sometimes doesn't end so well. But as always, when you're working like that, the surprises happen on the day when you're least expecting them. Something may go wrong. but ends up being better, or something you show up and something they've written and planned out and done the previs for doesn't work when we get there, and they have to come up with something else, and you end up getting, you know, the brilliant game that they gave you. So it was more like little surprises in there that you get every time you get a group of people to come together and create something.
All right, I'm going to go to the YouTube chat. I'm going to scroll up and read the questions. Matt Bird says, are you going to go see the new animated film coming out tomorrow, the Spider-Verse?
I cannot wait. I have heard only good things about it. Ever since I saw that first teaser, I was mesmerized, and I cannot wait. I hear it's terrific. So yes, I will be there 100%.
And how much fun is John Mullaly playing Spider-Ham? I think that's a fun character. That's never been on animation or anything like that.
I know. I'm really excited to see. And you know, they sort of set up that maybe our Spider-Man could make it into a future. I mean, they hid the suit in there. How cool is that?
Oh, they did. Yeah. Would you like to be part of any Spider-Verse project? Says Alexis. So
yes.
You're going to turn down a Spider-Man movie? No, you're not going to turn that down.
I'm not going to turn down Spider-Man anything. They can ask me to do Spider-Man anything, and I'll do it.
Let's see. I see that you voiced Spidey in the Superhero Squad game, says Random Internet Weirdo.
That is correct.
Awesome.
That is correct. And another little Spidey appearance in video games. Yeah.
Ryan says, what Spider-Man villain did you want to have more involved in the PS4 game that you didn't have as much spotlight in?
Oh,
any villains like Venom, maybe?
I mean, you know, Venom is sort of the granddaddy. But there, you know, I have these soft spots for villains that I grew up with, like Tarantula and you know, Kraven and Mysterio. And I guess we get Mysterio in the next movie. We'll see how they do that. And the Spot.
Oh, yeah.
Always had, you know, like portal power. I think that would have been a really cool game mechanic. If they had worked.
It would have been.
But, you know, much like Batman, Spider-Man's got a great rogues gallery. And I'm sure that...
You sound like you love 70s Spider-Man comics. How about Stegron, the Dinosaur Man? What about that?
You know, yeah, and honestly, there's one of my favorite jokes, which was a Christos Gage joke in the game. He made a Hostess Fruit Pies gag, which if you read Spider-Man comics in the 70s, there were these ads for Hostess fruit pies where the villains are always defeated by getting fruit pies thrown at them, and then they're like, oh, delicious, and they eat the fruit pies. And he sneaks a joke. He couldn't call it Hostess fruit pies, but he snuck it into the game. And as soon as I read it in the booth on the next break, I went on Twitter and I was like, oh, Gage, you and your fruit pies. Yeah, that was a favorite of mine.
But I think a dinosaur in a video game with Spider-Man would be awesome. I don't know.
I agreed.
Let's see. Spot would have been cool, especially for backpack pickup. Ryan says.
Yeah.
Alexis wants to know what your favorite suit was in the game. I bet you it's the White Spider one, right?
Well, clearly, because that sort of in some small part belongs to me now. But the Spider-Punk suit is great. I mean, there's the designs that they did were just terrific. The Velocity suit was cool. I love his sort of, you know, the Batman suit he comes up with at the end, you know, to fight Otto.
Oh yeah,
Of course, is a classic, you know, game logic thing. I walk into the lab and I walk out with this brand new suit. But it is there was something really slick and cool about that.
Spidey7 says, do you ever want to work with Josh Keaton one day?
I worked with Josh Keaton 3 days ago.
That was fast.
I work with him all the time. He's a really good friend. Our families are close. And I enjoy working with him whenever I get the chance.
Have you met any other Spider-Men?
Let's see. Josh is the one that I've definitely worked with most often. James Arnold Taylor. I know James Arnold Taylor. Which I don't know, but he's definitely on the list of Spider-Man. Okay. Sam Riegel, who played in the game Web of Shadows, I think he was Spider-Man in Web of Shadows. I've known each other for a long time. So I know some other Spider-Men.
Let's see. Anthony says Yuri needs to be like the official voice of all future adult animated Spider-Man characters in the future. So
if you could send that letter to Marvel or whoever needs to hear that, I agree with you.
All right, we'll do a couple more, and then you've got to go. I appreciate you taking time. So let's see. It's hero time, says Zach, the Thunder King.
That's a Ben 10 reference. The character, one of the characters I've played the most in my career.
There you go. I also like that there was another deep cut in the game that you did Lonesome Pinky, the country music star in the 80s Spider-Man comics. That was a deep cut.
Like I told you, the writers are huge Spider-Man nerds. And they had to have a lot of stuff to explain to me because, like I said, there are huge holes in my Spider-Man lore. And I could sometimes sense that there was a gag I wasn't getting, and I'd have to get them to explain it to me.
Giratina says, can you say pizza time in your Peter voice?
Pizza time.
There you go. Yeah. Did you ever play the PS2 Spider-Man game based on the movie where he had to go around and deliver pizzas? Do you remember that scene?
No.
Okay.
But people speak very highly of it.
Spider-Man and pizza they love each other.
Yeah, chasing pigeons and delivering pizza.
Oh, you're pigeons, man. Right? All right, real quick. Brad, tell Yuri he's awesome, says the Devil Breaker. That's my comment if you see it. We saw it, Devil Breaker.
We saw it. I heard it, and thank you.
Well, Yuri, thank you so much for being on, man. Is there anything in the future? You've got to make a sequel. I know you can't talk about it, but...
Well, I wish they'd talk to me about it. I can only assume at this point that they're going to do it. It made too much money for people to turn, down money. I understand how corporations work. They're going to want to make another one. But I have yet to be contacted to come to work. I'm hoping for it as much as you guys, if not maybe more.
Yeah. Oh, Random Internet Weirdo wants to know if you're a voice of Spider-Man in the Ultimate Alliance 3 game. That's on the Wii or the Switch.
Yeah, the Switch game. I don't think so. I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Yuri. I hope to have you on when the second one comes out, assuming we're making one. I bet you will.
I will gladly do that.
All right. Thank you, Yuri.
Thank you so much. Bye, all.